Vutlhari, and today I am going to be having. I'm going to have the talk over some ice creams with Tatenda.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give her time, and she's gonna introduce herself, her name, what she's all about, what she's into.
Okay, my name is Tatenda, and I am currently doing my master's in multidisciplinary human rights at the University of Victoria and the Center for Human Rights Studies. And I am particularly passionate about research, and because of the kind of solutions that it can give. Particularly interested in sustainable development and socioeconomic rights. So that is generally like your right to health, right to food, and everything like that. And yeah, because of that, in 2021, I actually started an organization called Sunflower Foundation to donate food parcels to the needy. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, when I did my research, I found out that she is indeed the owner of Sunflower organization, right?
Yes.
So I want to know what made you want to start this organization. Like, what was your core? What was your main reason behind this? What was your primary objective? Like, what made you want to start this?
Okay, so it was actually after COVID, and then a lot of people had suffered a lot of loss, and especially those who were already marginalized. So the people who didn't have much now didn't have anything. So then I think one of the days I think I was with my dad, and then just really looking around and seeing that there's a need. But above all, it was really a conviction from God. Like, okay, if you are able to pull enough resources to give out to the people that do not have, then yes, then it was really godly inspired more than anything, if I have to say, because I didn't even have the guts to do it. I was like, oh, is it gonna work and
But you
everything like
pushed
that. I pushed
through,
it. I'm like,
and
okay.
it actually worked.
It did work, and I had good help. I had great people who were helping me out. So yeah, it was good. The collaboration made it possible.
Oh wow, well, this is so interesting. Most liberating decision that you have ever made, may it be outside your organization or within your organization or around your life as a whole, generally. Like, what was the most liberating decision you've ever made?
So it's gonna be very simple for me. It was the decision to follow Christ, and I know a lot of people might think, oh, okay, here we go again, but it gave me a different worldview. And life honestly is about worldview, the perspective that you view it. So for me, following Christ gave me the worldview that I use now. It was like my foundation for every single thing that I build, single thing that I aim, my relationship with people and everything. So that was for me the most liberating decision I've ever made in my life.
And I heard you say, "Oh, here we go again." So, is this coming from a perspective that in this generation people are not really like as interested,
No, yeah,
or
the
I
thing
really
is,
want to understand,
because there's a tendency in the word that I don't like, but people like using it like over spiritualized. Oh, guys,
Oh,
God,
and for you,
Christians
you
are over
don't
spiritualizing
think
things
things.
now. Oh, no.
Okay, so okay, I want to ask: do you think they have a point though, or they generally just are not as invested as they
I
should
think,
be?
I mean, for me, then what is over spiritualizing? Because that is very relative. It's not a question of like if objectively are like this is over spiritualizing, this is what. Because if someone says I do not drink, I'm just saying because I go to church. Someone will like, oh, over spiritualizing, it's not that deep, it's just alcohol. But for someone, it's conviction. So I really feel like it's not a thing that you can say objectively like over spiritualized because you do not know where my convictions
But
lie.
don't you also think in this days that people who actually just want to like rely on God and actually don't want to put in the work that is driving certain people to actually want to be like you are over spiritualizing things? Don't you feel like sometimes they have a point, while sometimes they don't?
Yeah, I mean that's why it's very relative, but also people have a tendency to misrepresent God. It's not that God. It's because we rely on God. That means that we do not do anything. If you remember the Bible, as that parable of the five talents. The one is given 5, the one is given 2, and the one is given 1. And there's the one that doesn't do anything. And when the master comes back, he's very angry with them that he did not do anything with them. And so God is not relying on God doesn't mean we don't do anything. It means that we are able to steward these resources that He gave us so that they multiply into something. So yes, with that, obviously someone is just using God as as an excuse and misrepresent. Because if anything, God expects us to
People
work
who
hard.
don't want to really take accountability for their actions. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's very interesting. So while it's other people really are just, don't want to put in the work that Christ said we should put, others really, really, really see other people who are dodging the fact that they should work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in two ways. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, so I want to ask this other question. What is it that you wished that you had been advised of earlier? What
In life or
in life, which you got to know later in life, which you got to understand later in life? What is it that you wished like your little self, your old self, would have been advised or would have gotten to know about earlier?
I think for me, to be honest, is that pursuing passion comes with certain things, with doing certain things that you don't necessarily enjoy. So let's say, for instance, that I wanted to give, not say for instance, but the thing is, I want to be able to have a foundation and give people food. But that entailed me to know a lot about finances, right? That meant I had to look for donors. So my interpersonal skills, I had to, which does sometimes I don't like asking people for something, but I had to.
You had to step out of your comfort zone. Yeah,
so
I
sometimes you're
understand.
so blinded, passionate about this, but you don't realize that in as much as you want to go to get to a certain point, there are those things that you need. So for me, what would happen is if I want to pursue something, and at the first instance of, oh no, I can't do economics, I can't do finances, I don't like doing that, then I back away. But then I had to learn later in life that okay, in as much as you have a passion, there's certain things that you have to do, for that passion to be realized that you might not necessarily enjoy, but they're very imperative for you to achieve your passion.
So we might even say that this whole idea of your organization and having to come to an understanding that you have to go for what you want has also liberated you in a way.
Yeah, it
Like
has.
it has given you that freedom that you never thought is gonna come.
Yeah.
I mean, like through it you discovered more. While the male goal was to help, but you actually got to help yourself in the process.
Yeah, I had to engage with people, I had to
And it wasn't easy, right?
It wasn't easy.
But you learned and you pulled through, right?
Yeah.
This is so interesting. Also, since my whole channel is about freedom, I really love to know different people what really liberates them and stuff. But also, I would love to ask the question directly, Ori. What does it mean to be free for you? What is freedom for you?
I saw that question on the outline you sent to me, and I'm like, what is freedom, right? I don't know if I have like a concise definition of it, but when I think of freedom, I don't think I'm not gonna say what I don't think it is, and hopefully we can find a definition for it. But for me, freedom, I think it's to exercise will, right? But from a place perspective that is respectful to others. I think for freedom, for me, entails boundaries, that protects yourself and the people that are around you.
Oh, so it's more of a protection thing rather than it depriving you of.
Yeah, it's not depriving it, because a lot of people look at boundaries as a way of like
Of depriving yourself of fun and stuff like that.
Protecting yourself. I feel like for me, it's protecting yourself and the other people that are. So for me, it's that is freedom for me, and I don't know if that's the most explicit answer, but that is how I've realized to view freedom. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, judging from everything that we covered today, from you being an organization owner, from you having realized all the things you have, for you, I've heard you also talking about the decision that you took, which was being in Christ, which was very liberating for you. I can see that you are very open-minded and in the spite of you having been liberated by being in Christ, you're also liberated by really taking action. What is, to sum up everything, what is that advice you would want to give to the viewers? What would you want to say to them, all in, to wrap it all up? You
Yeah.
don't have to think. You don't have to think about it so deeply. Whatever comes, like okay, from all we've been talking, I feel like to sum this all up, I'll just say this.
I think for me, it's really, first and foremost, to really having your identity, knowing who you are, really shapes you in the approach that you take life from. It's very important, especially in this day and age, that there's a lot of things, a lot of confusion that might come. So being having that firm identity for me, which is in Christ, it really helps you out. And I think the other thing is that you must also know that all the discomforts along the way are part of the journey of learning exactly what, and which is so cliche, but in my own journey, it's really been true that the discomforts, the highs and the lows are part of the journey. So embrace them. Some days are better than others.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Some days you feel like quitting. Some days you ask yourself, why am I even doing this?
yeah,
But then you keep
yeah,
going,
you keep
remembering your
going.
vision, right?
Exactly, and a friend of mine used to like saying it's good growth. You get the trimmings, you get the sun, you get the rain. All very cliche and familiar, but it's very important for us to know. So yeah, that's my takeaway.
Well, we know what they say. We have to always edit when it's so nice and all. So yeah, that was very interesting. I also didn't know some of the things, and I really got a lot from this conversation. I don't want to lie, and it's also liberating me. I always say this, ne. Freedom is not something we acquire one day and it's all. We are constantly fighting to be free from our fears, from our traumas, from our the wrong opinions that we picked along the way. I feel like you cannot really reach a certain level and say that I'm free. And that's why I really want to engage with different people who are into different things to constantly give me their own opinions or share with me their work so that it can liberate me from
Yeah.
a certain perspective that I have and also help me grow. So hi guys, thank you again for watching. This was the talk with Tatenda and I hope this was helpful. Bye.
Bye.